This is a short excerpt of the Push 3 Bible. The Melodic sequencer plus 32 notes is perhaps not the sexiest name for, well, anything, I suppose. Sorry, Ableton. However, it is a quite interesting hybrid approach of the standard default melodic note mode and the very, very fun melodic sequencer mode on Ableton Push. And to get to the mode that we want, it's pretty simple. We press layout once, you see melodic sequencer come up, and then again, and melodic sequencer plus 32 notes comes up. So essentially what we have here is a kind of slightly schizophrenic layout where Push's pads have been divided in two parts. On the lower area, we have the melodic note mode, the 64 note mode, as we're used to from the standard melodic note mode. And above, we have the sequencer type layout that we have from the melodic sequencer layout. So they're both present at the same time. I'm just going to turn fixed length off here before I start recording something and just show you how this works. So basically, we can program in which note we would like to put here, because unlike the melodic sequencer, we don't have the notes directly to choose on the sequencer itself. So how that works is we, for example, choose a note we want, and then we place it within the sequence, like so. So now it's just going round and round. You can see that it's made a clip which is relatively short. So I will just make that clip twice as long so we can use all of this space here. And then what we can do next is choose another note we'd like to use. So essentially we are just programming in, selecting a note here and then dropping it there wherever we want. I could also use a chord. So here's a good chord. I'll put it here and here. But let's say I don't like that. I could just delete that one and put something else. And pop that there. Now you'll see per step it highlights what it's played there. Maybe I'll add that note here. Now, there's a few things to talk about right now. First off is that you could also record things in real time if you wish. So an example of that is just to press record. Sometimes you have to press it twice, as you know, and just play something in. And you can see those pads came in as well. Those steps have now been illuminated with what I recorded in real time. So it's important to know you can mix these two different ways of working. Now, as some of you might already have realized, the scale button and the scale menu here will adjust what is shown here in the bottom half of the pads. So you can set this chromatic to show notes out with the scale, or set it to a different root note or a different scale if you wish. What is also very important to mention is that this has a resolution, and at the moment it's on 16ths. So we can change that to 8ths, for example, and you see it just squeezes it into half of the space, meaning that if we would now put in notes, they would be an 1/8 in length. What we can do perhaps to add something a bit more interesting is to move up to 30 seconds. And now if I press play, you're going to see it move through things very quickly. But it means that on this first part, you can see that we can make very, very short steps. Now, I'm not saying that's super duper musical. Let's look for a different note. I'll use octave here just to move to a different zone. I'll use this note here to just give this example. So some very short notes coming up at the beginning. And while I've been working, I just so happen to have device view open, but what can be very helpful is to have clip view open at the same time, so you can also see what's happening there. Of course, that's a choice of how you want to work. Sometimes it can also be quite nice to focus on just this as a way of working and inputting notes and not also be looking at that. That is a very personal choice and might be useful in some cases and less useful in others. But what this does give is quick access to being able to change the length of the loop and to be able to see which part of the clip is it that we're seeing here. And here, however, we have this thing you'll recognize from the melodic sequencer, whereby it's only showing part of the clip here. And in order to get around that, in order to have it so that it always updates this part according to what's actually being played, what we need to do is hold down Shift and press Layout, and that's going to give us access to the loop selector. So now you'll see it page from one to the next, and then to the next in a moment. There we go. And then back to that one. Now we can select this one in order to view it, or if we'd like to automatically page between the two pages of the clip, so to speak, we just double tap on both of them, and it's now going to go between them automatically. If you only want to see one page and only loop that area, you could also just double tap, and now it's shortened the whole clip to just that one page. Now at this stage, and when we're using the clip view, we can also start interacting with individual notes in order to give them different adjustments of length and various other parameters that we get when the clip view is open. So by holding this step, it shows me not only how long it is, it also shows me where it is on the area here below. Right now, I'm just going to remove the loop selector area. So we have more space here. I can hold this down and I can make it a longer step. And what you could also do at this stage is you'd say, well, actually, I don't want that note anymore. Just a simple case of just removing it. Let's press undo to bring it back. But because we know that this one is that one, what we can also do is hold down delete, and it will delete all of the notes that have been programmed in on that note. So all of the notes present in the clip. So that means that we're going further. We're not just removing that single note that was here, it's all of the instances of that note throughout the clip. So you could do that very quickly and just basically start deleting everything that's within this entire clip. And I mean, this is not saying this is a fast way of doing things, but everything is now gone. You will note that it is actually just doing an active area that we're working on here. If we would increase this loop length like so, do the same thing, you're going to see it's going to start deleting all the rest of the notes. So that's also interesting to know, and I have shown it elsewhere in the Push 3 Bible, that you can essentially limit the focus of how you're working by using the clip view and by changing the area which is shown or highlighted by the loop length area. Now, by now, we've lost a lot of our beautiful note soldiers, so let's just bring these back, pressing undo, and we should have most of them back. So here we are with most of the idea returned to us, and I'll just show you a couple of other interesting things, which is that if I make a chord just here and program it in there, if I hold that down, it's going to highlight the chord, just like when I highlighted this one, it highlights that note there. If I highlight this chord, what should usually be possible, and what I've noticed is that this doesn't seem to work 100% of the time, so I wonder if there's some bug in here, but it used to work with Push 2 and Alive 11, is that you can then add extra notes to that step. So now when we play through, we can make this even more extreme, which is obviously quite extreme. But it's a very neat and interesting function. Like I say, it has not been behaving fully reliably for me. You let me know if it's the case for you or not. But it's a really fun extra aspect of working with this layout. Now, let's say that this was a very beautiful chord you'd programmed in and you wanted it turning up elsewhere. Instead of having to play it all over again, you can just use duplicate, choose the step you want to duplicate, and then drop it somewhere else, and in as many places as you want. Although that was interesting that it only let me place it once. So it's a one, you can only place it once and not to multiple other steps. And what I will say about that is that this only copies the note information and does not bring any automation over per step. Probably touch upon that in a different video, but it is a note-only operation. So the Melodic sequencer plus 32 notes is actually rather interesting, I would argue, and it has to be said, perhaps serves a slightly sexier name, perhaps. That all said, working this way, either in a complementary fashion to other modes on Push, or perhaps making a track with only this mode, could unearth and bring really interesting results. And it is such a good example of how workflow and creativity, have this conversation with each other, and they influence each other very strongly. And this one I think is really rather intriguing. Just one thing I want to add is that this mode, like some other modes on Push, sometimes lead to really interesting and unexpected results. Something I made later on in the chapter about this mode sounds like this. And I had so much fun making that. And it's a reminder to myself, but something I also want to share with you, that going deep on these modes, the ones that might not always talk to us directly, or they might not even make any sense, why would I work that way, can really lead to some unexpected results and a lot of fun. So at least invite you to explore it in as much depth as you can. And like we do in the Push 3 Bible, set yourself a challenge of making something with it, and perhaps only with that mode. Because yeah, it takes a moment sometimes, but the results can really be an awful lot of fun, or at least a surprise. If you'd like to learn everything about Push 3, and I mean everything, check the Push 3 Bible. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this mode, if you've ever used it, if you were even aware of it, and if there are any other modes you could imagine there being on Push, because there's still space for more, I would argue. In the meantime, take care and see you in the next one.